Good afternoon.
Hey, everyone out there, it's Woman Warrior Wednesday. And I am super psyched because we have Jaimie Lee with the Coalition here with us today. Welcome, Jaimie.
Thank you so much. What an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so excited about today's Woman Warrior Wednesday. And before we get started here, I just want to introduce myself for those of you who might not know me. I'm Ruby Garcia, leadership and life coach. I have my own coaching practice and then am creator of the Woman Warrior Within training program for women who want to reclaim their power and live in their authentic lives. So I started Woman Warrior Wednesday just recently because I really wanted to showcase women that are living their purpose, that are doing things that they're passionate about, that are making impact, and are powerhouses, because I think that there's a lot that we can gain and garner from learning from each other's experiences and uplifting each other. And I'm a huge supporter of women supporting women, and so this is one of the ways that I get to do this. So today I'm really excited because if you were to look up powerhouse in the dictionary, Jaimie Lee's face would be there. This is the ultimate woman warrior, people. She is a powerhouse. And I'm super excited because I don't think any of you know this, but my kids and I are now in Fight Club. We are like 7 sessions into Krav Maga.
Yes.
We joined Jamie's gym, and we are, our whole lifestyle is changing already because we're like the Krav Maga family now, and just defend justice and everything else and protect our peace.
Yes.
So I wanted to bring Jaimie, like I said, because she's just an extraordinary human being. She is local to here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. But I think there's a lot that we can learn from her and her experiences, and a little about Krav Maga too, because I know it was something that I was not familiar with. And for those of you, I'll give some context really quick. I'm changing my own narrative. So you guys know, I have in the past said I'm not athletic. I'm not, very strong. And I went to a session. It was a networking event that we had at Jamie's gym, and we had a self-defense class. And I feel like I was hooked. Like I could do this, right? Like it's not easy, but there was something about it. And I think that's an important thing, is to find an activity that you like in order to, to want to go out, like, cause running on the treadmill just doesn't appeal to me and stuff like that. So anyways, no further ado, I want to introduce Jaimie. And Jaimie, can you just give us a little background about yourself? Can you tell me a little about where you grew up, anything that you feel would tell us a little more about, who you are as a person?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be glad to. First of all, thank you for such a lovely introduction. That was really sweet of you. And I'm glad you're changing your narrative, because you own that session when the women came here. Like, seriously, you were such a standout with our drills and stuff. So I'm so glad that you enjoyed it, because it's amazing how you find and discover the power that's already there. So, but I was born and raised in Chapel Hill. I was the first of my family to be born here, because my grandparents came here from Georgia. And I went to Ephesus Elementary School, and then the Phillips Middle School, and East Chapel High. I was the first class to be there, all 4 years when it opened. So I feel like I have a special place there in East Chapel High history. But and then I went to Atlanta for undergrad, and then I traveled. I lived overseas for a little bit and taught English. And when I came back, I was like, what am I going to do now? So I ended up in academic counseling, and it was definitely a stressful career, and to say the least. And I was like, I need an outlet. I need something I can do that is going to keep me engaged and challenge me, and I needed something cathartic. And so after my first Krav Maga class, that's how I felt I was hooked, because I grew up in the dance world. My first love was ballet. And so I really wanted to be a ballerina growing up. And I did all sorts of different types of dance. And I also was a bouncing bulldog. I did rope skipping and I played basketball. So I was always very active. Um, and I did dance for the longest, but otherwise pretty much dibbled and dabbled in other things.
Mm-hmm.
Took a little bit of karate, this and that. So I wasn't nearly focused on anything like I'm now. But as a counselor, I was like really, dealing with a lot of stress, and I was becoming more sedentary, and finding it harder to kind of self-motivate,
Mm-hmm.
to train and exercise and do what have you. And I started having a lot of back pain and knee pain, and, just all sorts of things were starting to accumulate. And I was like, why am I in pain? I'm like in my, late 20s at the time. And so I started using Groupons and Living Social deals. And I actually discovered Krav Maga through one of those coupons. And I was trying everything. I was doing like yoga and cycling and all, which I loved all of it. And I did some dance and I really enjoyed everything I tried. But the Krav Maga was definitely a standout because it was pretty much like completely outside of my wheelhouse, but I found it was like, it just spoke to me. It just brought something out that I didn't realize was there. And it also, it was motivating because it's meant to be a quick enough learn that you don't have to do it for 10, 20 years to actually be able to start to certify to teach it.
Yeah.
So in the first year, I started training to teach it.
And for people that might not know, because I didn't really know what Krav Maga was, like I had this picture of like burly men, right? Like who really like to fight, like, MMA or something like that. Can you, because I think there might be misconceptions, can you kind of explain like what Krav Maga is, like who it's for, and why it could be important for people?
Absolutely. I'm happy to. So Krav Maga is a mix of different martial arts, and the whole purpose is to build strength and power from where you are. So it's an Israeli-based fighting system, and it was designed to, train your average citizen, because Jaimie Lichtenfeld, who's kind of, considered the pioneer and creator of Krav Maga, he really saw a need for civilians to also be able to defend themselves. He was working with military and law enforcement, and he was primarily a boxer in the beginning, from what I understand, and wrestling and some of those things. But he realized like there's opportunity to train your average citizen to be able to defend against common attacks. And so that's what I love about it. And they, the founders and the developers of Krav Maga studied instinctive responses to violence, instinctive responses to hands around the throat or a weapon or what have you. And so they really built the system from there. And even it's a pretty young system, young enough that the folks who brought it to the States, there's several, there are countless federations now, but I started with Krav Maga Worldwide, and they're based in Los Angeles. And a lot of those trainers and instructors actually trained with Jaimie Lichtenfeld and some of the folks who really developed the system. So you're really getting like a very close connection to the originators of the system, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But in terms of what it is and what it feels like, it's just like we start, every class with, got to warm your body up and all that good stuff. So I'm big on warm up. I'm big on making sure that we get our heart rates up and we stretch and all that kind of stuff. But after that, we take one technique at a time. We break everything down into small pieces and we build it from there. So we don't start right away with contact. We figure out how to do it without contact. And then based on our comfort levels and the pace at which we're picking things up, we build it step by step from there. So that's what I love about how we're taught to instruct, is that everything is designed to be built and to progress with manageable bite-sized pieces, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think, and I will testify, because like I said, in the past, I've said, I was using the narrative, I wasn't athletic, which I'm reframing and, building my strength. Yes. But if you guys, if I can do Krav Maga, anybody can do it. Okay. Like, because I'm not very coordinated, from a natural strength, but because you do break it down piece by piece, it's helpful to someone like me to be able to digest it. And it's super it's super empowering. And there is like you said, there's a power that comes from within, as you're taking those moves, and it's like it's super cathartic too.
Yes, yes.
If you need to go, like with some of my clients, I talk about going on an anger diet because so many people like want to hold that in or repress it,
right.
But you don't want that type of emotion or energy trapped inside. So this is a great way to, let off some steam and get a good workout at the same time. So again, if I can do it and my boys are in it too. I've got a 14-year-old and my 8-year-old is in there too. And Jaimie, you have a wide variety of clients coming into your place, correct?
Yes. And that's my favorite part of the world of Krav Maga. Everywhere I've trained, because I've gotten a chance to train and do certifications all over the country. I've been to Israel. I've been certified at the Wingate Institute in Israel. And everybody I've trained with, every group of people that I've connected with are diverse and very community oriented, like very supportive of one another. And we want to build strength and empowerment among each other. It's not like really ultra competitive, even though of course there are elements where we can be competitive, but yeah, it's designed, for an hour-long class. You're supposed to be able to take something away that very same day. And it's not about promoting, violence or the use of violence. It's just to understand it and not have a stigma around it, to be able to understand how it works and how we can use it as a tool to keep ourselves safe, instead of thinking it's just like a mythical thing that only bad people or crazy people, who just like to fight and embody. It's like, no, we all have the capacity to be tough and be strong and to defend ourselves should we need to, because it's not always the answer. Of course, we want to avoid violence as much as possible. But if you have no choice, if you don't have the choice, it's so important to have tools that you can turn to that will be, again, based on our instincts, because we do have the instincts to survive. As human beings, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have that. And the instinct to fight and to defend ourselves if we're in danger. And so I think it's a great way to tap into that tool, and it will unlock things beyond just, feeling like you can fight somebody. It's not about this, about having respect for that fight and what you might need to do, but also it's strength building. It's a way of getting a skill and developing a mindset, and then your body transforms along with that, almost subconsciously, because we work hard, we do drills, we sweat, we do stuff, but when you're in the midst of understanding a new skill or learning a new skill, sometimes I think it helps pass the time, and you don't feel like it's necessarily so grueling, because there's purpose behind it. Yeah. So I feel like physically, through I say the same thing. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Because again, I wanted to be a ballerina. That was my first love. And so the thought of me, doing this for a living is I'm still pinching myself. I'm like, I don't get to do this. This is cool.
Jaimie, we can't see your full stature, but you're how tall are you? You're not that tall, right?
Right. I'm like 5'4".
You're pretty. But let me tell you, I've seen her do some punches, and they're pretty powerful. But there's something I want to go back to what you said, and that is, and just to clarify, because I don't know if I said this in the beginning. So for those of you watching, and for those of you watching, feel free to drop comments or questions in the chat box, and we can bring those up and discuss those too if you have any. But so you are the owner of the Coalition, which is a fitness gym here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and then you are a certified Krav Maga instructor, black belt, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you hold multiple other certifications and can do bar and I think Pilates and just other certifications, and you do personal training. So in case I missed that in the beginning, I wanted to clarify that. But one of the things that you said was the strength building and mindset. And that is something, as a coach, it's funny. Sometimes you say things and I run back to my phone on break or whatever. And I'm like, let me write down that down, because that's so applicable. I can use that in my coaching, or I see the metaphors, and a lot of it is not just the physical. There is a mindset element. And even, it was funny because even yesterday, Sebastian said to me, Mom, I see a lesson. And I said, what's that? And he's like, when you're holding the training pad, you got to push past what you see. You got to push through that pad. And that's how it is in life. Now he's 8 years old and he's picking up on that. Right. And that's one of the things. Yeah. And so it's that is, the things that you say, I feel like are it's almost like it gets us into our subconscious, right? And some of the other things I've heard you say in class are things like, go past the pad, fight through. If you can still breathe, you've got fight left. You talk about going big, right? Playing big, going bigger. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, and I know there's other ones that I've missed. What and I see how like a lot of these can be used and applied to just art, outside of the mat, right? Outside of the gym, that these are things that we can use in real life. Absolutely. What do you think these metaphors can teach us? And are there any that particularly kind of resonate with you personally?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. And first, I'm like thrilled any of those phrases actually hit and stick. That's so cool to me. I'm so excited about it. And again, I didn't come up with this stuff. I've been trained by some amazing people. So I'm so excited that translates. But yes, absolutely. I apply the principles to life and perseverance through anything. And I'm sure everybody is in a perseverance state these days. Like we're trying to get through, we're trying to survive something, we're trying to overcome, we're trying to push past. And certainly that's the mindset in training and in any challenge that you need to overcome. It's like, first and foremost, it's not just enough to go through the motions when we're talking about techniques and self-defense. It's not about just choreography or choreographed moves, which I think there's value in that. It's not a dig at all to any martial arts. I see beauty in all of it, but it's more than just, a set of movements. It's like, how do those movements function to empower ourselves, to move our bodies as efficiently as we can, to keep our bodies mobile as long as possible, to have a continued progression of strength and mobility. All of that can only happen through being consistent and persevering and pushing through, pushing past barriers, pushing beyond what you think your limit is, because we're really only limited by what's going on up here, right? If we can envision it, we can go for it, we can achieve it. And it's just about knowing what steps to take, bit by bit, piece by piece. I'm not a big person, but I understand mechanically better, and I try to improve upon it every day, how to execute a strike or something in a powerful way, how to build strength not only in my muscles but in my joints, because I started from a place of injury. I started training because I had so much back pain I could barely drive, and it wasn't something that was like easy to diagnose. It wasn't like a clear, like I would get questions a lot from doctors like, what was the injury, what happened? I was like, there was no real particular injury. I think it's wear and tear. I think it's stress. I think where you hold tension and stress. So being able to breathe and being able to calm your mind in moments of stress, we do that on the mats. We practice like that drill we did, like nonstop striking. It's about, how do you breathe? How do you use a different part of your body if one is starting to, get fatigued or wanting to give up? How do you tap into another part of you in order to persevere? Because those drills are no joke, right? Those drills are no joke. And also community. Like we need each other. If you're trying to go through everything by yourself, it is much more difficult than if you actually tap into the people around you who probably are going through some of the same things. We need each other. We need community. And I'm like, tools are fine. I get it. If people feel comfortable carrying, weapons in terms of how it functions in Krav Maga, if people choose to carry a firearm or a knife or pepper or whatever it is, that's fine. That's your personal choice, but you need to know how to use it. You need to train with these tools. What's better, of course, is training, being able to train yourself to do things for muscle memory so that you don't make mistakes, hurt somebody you don't intend to hurt. But beyond all of that is your community. If you have people who have your back, you have their back, and we collectively support each other, not just in the studio, but we try to stay connected and support one another outside of it as well. That applies to our businesses, that applies to our families. And, it truly does take a village to raise a child. And it takes a village really to just get through life, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a huge believer in community. So I do the one-on-one coaching. And I've run some small group coaching too with, cohorts of women, about six individuals. And I'll probably start one in the fall here too again. And and then the reason that I feel like in community is like we we grow and we learn in community more than when we do for ourselves. I almost feel like the community, like the group coaching, is almost more valuable than the one-on-one, because you have that whole community that's going to be there to support you. Right. And you have you have the whole community that's going to be able to give you feedback, or, you end up being mirrors for each other, the way you support each other. And I can attest, to the community. I was thinking about it last night, right? Like, you have a wide range of different, we're doing drills together from, 8 years old to, I don't know, maybe senior age, right? All different, every strength in between. And we, you don't know, like yesterday, we all worked with each other, right?
Exactly.
And so, but the way the community holds each other is really incredible. And I think that's something that is, directly related to your leadership, Jaimie. And I think because even I was talking to one of the guys afterwards, and he said, he's checked out some other places and it's not been the same field, right? So I definitely think that's reflective. So tell me, so you got, I'm going to go back a little bit. So you got into Krav Maga, you were like, you went to Israel, you got certified there. And then what was kind of the transition into becoming an entrepreneur? Like, what made you decide, like, I like this, and I'm going to do this to kind of going all in, right? Like, essentially you went all in when you decided to open the coalition. And that was just in correct me if I'm wrong, was that in November of 2019 that you opened? Or
Good question. So we had a soft opening in February of 2019. So we're incorporated at the end of 2018, and then started, opening up for business in that February. And it's an interesting journey, because I definitely didn't envision this for myself, and seldom do I ever envision anything for myself. I've always been a go with the flow type of person, and I kind of just go with, life just directs me, to be honest. And I try to be really open to what opportunities come my way and to show up. I think the hardest part in life is just to show up. When you show up, or you communicate with people, or you just engage with people, I think everybody's important. Everybody has something to offer this world. You're here for some reason. And so every time I get a chance to connect with someone, I try to take advantage of that. And so it kind of happened organically, where I was in one career, and that career didn't work out. Then I ended up helping another studio, and I was like, you know what, we need something in Chapel Hill. And I wasn't sure if that was going to work out, but a couple of buddies of mine, they were like, one, Josh Townsend, he's a local celebrity around here. He does massage and body work, but he's also a great Kravist, and he does modeling. He's a very interesting guy. And he found the spot. He was like, hey, there's a spot available. You should check it out. And maybe we should give it a go. And I was like, well, I guess so. And then some of the clients from my old studio, they reached out, and they were like, we really miss training with you. And another colleague of mine, DC, and they were like, we miss training with you. Let's get together and train on the weekends or something. So we did, just started doing that all over town. And then another colleague, Bené Hicks, she was running the local Boys and Girls Club, and I was teaching the kids out there a couple times a month. And so she was like, hey, let's see if we can get this thing going. And I was like, okay, sure. And so anyway, we just kind of,
I love that. It's so casual.
Yeah, it literally was like, well, I have nothing to lose. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with myself career-wise after academic counseling. And I really missed the training and the camaraderie and the people. And so instead of giving up Krav Maga completely, I ended up just having more and more people who reached out and said, we would really love to continue working with you. I was driving out to Fuquay Arena, my friends at the Original Strength Institute out there. I infuse a lot of, when I talk about the resets in class and helping with coordination and stuff, they pioneer that. Original Strength, I love them. And it's all about using movements from when you're born and what you do instinctively to learn how to like roll over and how to rock. And then you learn how to crawl, and all of those movements are innate. Like, we don't have to be taught how to do them. We just know, organically to do those things, which I think is really cool. So we use those movements throughout the warm up, throughout class, to kind of reset your brain, to help your brain's communication to your body. And so it helps with the overall, whatever type of training you're doing. Because I use it a lot with my client who has MS to help her improve her mobility. So, you know, all of this stuff has happened just because of making connections and following up and talking to people and saying, okay, well, let's try Saturday at noon. And then, you know, we grew, and so for like a year plus, we were training on weekends outside at parks, whatever we could find. And then Josh found this place. And so we're like, hey, let's see what are the steps to opening up a studio, and just one step at a time. Then we, you know, open doors, and we're such a community driven group that we're like, okay, is anybody available to paint this weekend? Okay, let's paint. Is anybody, you know, what about mats? What about this? And then through my church, I met a guy who actually used to train with Billy Blanks and who did the whole Tybo thing.
Oh, yeah.
He was, Eli Johnson. So he actually brought that product. It's kind of changed. And now there's a Toso X brand, but it's pretty much Tybo. So he came here. He had just closed the studio down in Florida, came here to be with his family, and we teamed up. And now I got all this equipment. That's where all this beautiful equipment, training equipment came from, the heavy bags, everything like that. He helped me develop my kickboxing class more and add more flavor and variety to it. You got a chance to experience that?
Yeah, let me tell you, guys, like, boxing class killed me for 3 days. But it was so much fun. My kids were like, let's go back like twice a month or once a month for that one. I was like, no, we're doing that every Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of stuff that has like changed me and transformed me physically. I mean, I didn't know how to work out like that before. It's literally been through Krav Maga community, kickboxing, and just learning how to use these fighting skills and these drills to like get in killer shape. I'm like, I'm excited every year. I'm like, okay, I want to be this much faster, this much stronger, you know, every year that passes, because I didn't know I could be this strong. I didn't know I could do this at all. I had no clue. And I saw my first belt test, a level 1 belt test. What was that, in 2012, 2013? And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they did that, because they can last 3 hours, 4 hours just to get through one level. And I saw them and I was like, I can, and there was one young lady in there and all the rest guys. And I was like, I bet I could do that. If I stick with it, I think I could do that. And, you know, it's also about setting goals and have our belt tests are like a rite of passage. And as adults, we don't always get to do that. We don't always get that feeling of accomplishment, something to work towards, something that pushes us past our comfort zone, and to see what we have in ourselves in a as safe an environment as possible.
Yeah.
And
so I just want to reiterate, because there's so much gold in so much of what you said. I just want to point out a couple of things. So you said you were just saying yes to things, and it reminds me, there's a book by Stephen Pressfield. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's I always get confused, The War of Art or The Art of War. No, The War of Art.
Yes.
The War of Art. And he says the warrior's answer is always yes, right? Yes. And that's what you do. It's about showing up. You mentioned like you didn't know, but it was one step at a time, right? And a lot of times that's what gets people stuck is, you know, they see the end vision, and the biggest thing is how is that going to happen? How is that going to happen? And it's like, you don't have to know everything. It's just, what's the next right step, right? And taking it. You talked about setting goals, about tapping into your community. And then lastly, you said, you know, it's about pushing past our comfort zone, too, which like, Krav Maga for me is definitely out of my comfort zone. But you know, there's so much that's why I think it goes so beyond the physical that, you know, it really does get into like, you know, mindset, and, you know, you're tired, and, you know, community, like pushing you, cheering you on, like encouraging you, come on, tell you like, go fighter. I mean, Sebastian, when he's with me, he'll, you know, if he's holding the pad and I'm punching or whatever, he'll be like, come on, bring it. Is that all you got? Is that all you got? Come on. That's it. I love it. You little punk.
So funny.
No one's gonna want to mess with Sebastian.
No way. I love your boys.
You know, and William's just like cool, like
he's so cool, and and tough as nails too.
So now I think of you like, and I think you know, you I'm going to go two places. One is, you mentioned that you were, you went to the testing. There was like one female that kind of stood out. And I tend, like I said in the beginning, I tend to think of Krav Maga as like, a specific type of person. Did you ever, like throughout your journey, did you ever face kind of, these days people talk a lot about imposter syndrome. Was that something that you ever felt like you experienced?
Oh, definitely.
And how did you overcome that?
Definitely. That's a great question. Definitely. So I don't come from a military background, and that's really popular in Krav Maga or law enforcement. And so when I talk about experiences, sometimes it's secondhand. I'm speaking on behalf of someone I've interacted with or something that I've learned at a seminar presentation with people who live it. So it was difficult in the beginning because when I took my first class or first couple classes, I assumed that my instructors were all like in the military. They all, had survived, battle and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But that's really not the case. It really is, largely taught by civilians for civilians. And it bothered me in the beginning because I was like, gosh, what if people ask me about how much fighting I've actually done? But when I started to look back at my life and just in general, it's like, it's not just about fighting with your hands. We have to overcome and fight many battles throughout life. And I remember even in school, there were periods of time, I look back, I take it for granted, but where I remember like every day I was like, okay, I'm going to have to fight tomorrow. There were a group of girls, they hated me so much. And every chance they got, they would say whatever mean thing they could and say, we're going to do this to her, that to her, at the lunchroom, in the hallways. And I didn't know really how to react because nobody was like, I was like, if I fight, I don't know who's going to jump in and fight with me, if anybody. And these girls were pretty big and they were, a pretty good group of them. And so I just remember every day I was like, okay, if I have to fight tomorrow, this is my plan. If they attack me at my locker, this is what I'm going to do. If they attack me, and looking back, I thought of it as kind of a logical thing. I wasn't necessarily terrified of it. I just figured I needed to plan. So interestingly, and you fight and you go through that growing up, and it does in a way. It's sad. You don't want any child to have to deal with that, but at the end of the day, it definitely taught me how to, negotiate as best I could, how to interact with people, because I didn't look at them as just enemies. I figured there was some other reason they didn't like me, whether it's probably their own insecurities, because I didn't want to hurt anybody. I didn't talk badly about anybody from what I remember. And I just remember thinking to myself, well, I'm not going to be afraid, but I'll just, try to be ready and try to just have a game plan at the end of the day. And that's what I'm doing now. It's just, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know when I may have to use these techniques and tools. I hope to never, ever have to use them. But I've gotten, I've survived this long. I've gotten this far. I've traveled all over the world. There have been moments where I'm just so thankful, I wasn't taken more advantage of, and, especially traveling by myself a lot in countries that, weren't always developed, super developed. And I just try to learn something from every experience. And I know there were times where I didn't make the wisest decision in terms of safety and security, but now with looking back and what I know now, I can help another person who is about to start traveling, is about to embark upon that part of their life. Yeah. Hopefully they'll take with something with them that will be valuable and can possibly help save them if they, or at least to avoid a situation. Because, sometimes it's just about, being smart and strategic to avoid an altercation. And anytime we can avoid it, we avoid it. Anytime we can, it's not ever worth it. It's not ever worth giving up your life if it can be avoided, right? Or catastrophic injury if it can be avoided. That's a big, and being an academic counselor at UNC at the time, I mean, there was so much that happened over the course of the years I was there. Case in point, our student body president, Eve Carson, was murdered while I was a counselor, and it was devastating to the whole community. She was such a wonderful young woman and had so much promise. And I remember, working with my students, helping them get through that. And, there were other incidents. And I just remember thinking to myself, especially when I started training, like I used that heartache and that frustration, that anger that somebody could do that to someone, that really fuels me and that keeps me going. I think about those prior experiences. I think about the fact that I'm so lucky I wasn't like severely jumped by these girls. I was just lucky I could get through that. And I'm like, if there's anything that I could share with someone, a tool, a training, a mindset that could hopefully prevent these heinous incidents, I want to do that. And that's my fuel, my motivation every day. I don't care how tired or if I'm injured or whatever. When I think about that, that gives me life. And I want to reach as many people as possible for those reasons.
Yeah. And I know that you say that a lot, in class, talking about like, violence is never the answer, right? And when it is, like, it comes down to survival, right? And so this is about protecting your peace, right?
Exactly.
And so yeah, it's not something that you want to resort to, but to know that you are capable to take care of yourself. And I think too, like a big part of even some of the drills we were doing yesterday was like to be aware of your surroundings.
Yes.
Right. And so you are taking things like that and taking it into the real world about being observant about what's going on around you. Right. Because we were going through drills and we were still doing drills and you had already told us to stop and we were still doing them. Right. You know what I mean? So it gave, like you really have to be aware. So there's all these other skills that you're kind of gaining too. I know you mentioned like some of the stuff, with your younger years. Is there any, because I think most people would consider you a very strong person, not just physically, but mentally. And I know that you're a human being with, thoughts, feelings, emotions. What are some of the biggest mindset issues that you've had to overcome for yourself?
That's a great question. Yeah, I consider myself a pretty sensitive person. Like, I feel sensitivities to what people around me are going through. I feel sensitivity to all the issues that we, are dealing with as a society. And it can be really depressing. It can be, very frustrating. And everybody, like, to have a dialogue about anxiety in this day and age is really incredible, because I don't remember using these terms so freely growing up, but having words to identify what we go through as human beings is really empowering. And so what I try to tap into to overcome those feelings, definitely this community, coming here every day. Even last summer when we were kind of on lockdown, I still came here every day. We just set up Zoom. I still taught every day, and it was my lifeline. I don't know what I would have done if I had to be at home 24/7. Even just coming here, being in a different environment, even though it was by myself and with Benet, and we set up the camera, and engaging with people online was like everything. We were still punching and training online. And I was just like, thank goodness I can still connect with people some kind of way to help deal with. And when you're training and when you're working out and when you have a sense of accomplishment, when you get through an hour class or 45-minute class, you have accomplished something incredible. You know what I'm saying? Getting through.
But if you're in Jaimie's class, expect to go 15 minutes to 30 minutes over every time. Just FYI. Don't be watching the clock.
I get excited. Sorry, my dog is barking. I get excited.
It's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, getting through class is an accomplishment. And so I think the feeling of accomplishment, getting your endorphins going, and it really helps boost your mood and boost how you feel. And any insecurities I have, as an entrepreneur, a business owner, I just remember I got through a black belt test, and my black belt test was over 9 hours. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm like, if I can get through that, and I would have never envisioned this in 2012, step by step. And now I'm like, okay, what's the next challenge? What's the next test I'm going to do? What's the next level? Because I just realized, like, okay, another human being did this, and I'm a human being. So potentially I could do it too. We have strengths and different capabilities, but shoot, I'm like, if this person can show up and do it, then maybe I can do it too. So let me just at least give it a shot.
And I think, I love that, because I feel like that we, the students feed off that energy too. Like, I feel like, I don't know if I would do this with any other instructor, to be honest, like if it wasn't you, because you really, I hate using the word empower, because I feel like we all have power
Yeah.
within it comes from within. But I feel like you encourage us to tap into that power. And, it's like you walk out like, well, I'll speak for myself. I walk out feeling like a champion, right? Like, oh yeah, right. And I feel super empowered and I feel strong. And, but I think that's a lot of like your encouragement in the class too. And, you're always good at making, adjustments and modification, which is the cool thing about Krav Maga too, is, you have that ability to make adjustments, and things like that. So, fear is something that comes up a lot, right? And especially within kind of like a lot of the women that I deal with and coach. I ran a group 2 years ago, a couple small group coaching programs that was called Courageous Living. And the kind of the big question was like, what would life be like if we showed up as our most powerful and bravest versions of ourselves, right? Like what would come out of that? And we kind of unpacked that, over a 4 to 6 month period. But fear is like it's something that, I think even, there's been some research about regrets and people regretting that they've not, done the thing because they were afraid of what other people would say, on their deathbed and stuff like that. Those are some of the regrets that come up is the fear of not having done something. And, it keeps people from, really doing what they're meant to do, from being who they're meant to be in this world and living like full out in their lives. What do you think we can learn from Krav Maga about facing our fears?
I love that. That's a great question. Fear is just a part of the experience. I try to compartmentalize, like it's a part of this human experience, just as much as joy is, love is, compassion, all the things. And so I just try to think of everything as a tool. If I'm feeling fear, how can I use that as a tool to channel into overcoming it? Because in order to overcome it, I've got to acknowledge it. And instead of running away from it, how do I get into it? How do I attack the attack? That's a big motto in Krav Maga. We attack we don't just defend, we turn our defense into an offense. And so with that mindset, it's like an attack, so to speak. It seems like it would be an immediate position of disadvantage. But if they can attack, I can attack back.
That's right.
And that's how it is in life. It's like if I feel fear, then I'm likely not the only person feeling this way. And so the first thing I try to do when I feel those emotions is identify, okay, I'm feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? I've started, and I've gotten this from some amazing coach because I work with a lot of coaches. I just found I'm like, why didn't I do this before? I should have been working with coaches all the time. So since starting, the coalition, I've been working with a lot of coaches, and somewhere along the line, I picked that up. Like, okay, whatever I'm feeling, I acknowledge it, and I try to figure out what is the real source of this feeling. Let me just go ahead and identify it right now. And a lot of times you think it's one thing, but then you peel back layers and you're like, oh, this is really the root of what I'm fearing. Okay. So the next question is, what can I do about it? Okay. So what are the steps that I can take to either eliminate the fear, or how do I find a way to cope with the fear? And so, I'm usually alone and I live by myself. I have my dog. And so I thought to myself, okay, if I feel fearful of, and in any way, or vulnerable in any way, just the idea, the thought of being alone, and you see these videos and all these kind of crazy things, Dateline pops up on my YouTube and I'm like watching this story and I'm like, why am I like all of a sudden feeling so sad and fearful and melancholy? But then I'm like, okay, I'm educating myself that this can happen. And so what are the things I can do to cope with that feeling or prevent something from happening for myself or someone else, and apply that to every part of life. I don't want to, because when we acknowledge, okay, what are we fearful of? We don't want to, leave this earth and have people say things negative about us. We want to have a positive impact, or I don't want to leave this earth and have regret, or be on my deathbed and have regrets that I didn't do this or didn't do that. So then the cure for that is like, well, do something. So it's like, if I get an opportunity, instead of looking back, and I've missed out on plenty of things. I used to, people would invite me out to do things, and I would say, I'd be more inclined to say no. I kind of like to be to myself sometimes. And after I work, because I work a lot, I like to be to myself. But I'm like, shoot, how else am I going to make human connection and have friendships that can last a lifetime if I don't show up and if I don't fellowship with those people? So in the moment, if I don't feel like, it's like, wait a second, why do I not feel like it? Is it about them or is it about me? It's probably about me. I'm probably thinking, okay, if I don't get this amount of sleep, and am I going to go to sleep early tonight anyway? No. So going out there and have some fun, so I'll go through that whole process with myself. Or, when I was just training, it's like, okay, I don't feel like going to class today. Why is that? Well, I'm tired. I'm this, I'm that. Every excuse in the book. And every answer to that is, well, if you're tired, exercise can help you with that. It's like taking a 20-minute power nap. The worst feeling is not having done something good for myself. So if I don't go to class later on tonight, I'm really going to be like, dag, I wish I would have gone ahead and done that. Or when I don't take off the 2 pounds that I'm trying to take off, the only answer is, what did I not do to exercise to achieve that? Or what did I eat that I shouldn't have eaten, or vice versa? So it's all about, like, if I can analyze it and look at it like almost clinically, instead of being in the feeling, how can I like take myself out of it and look at it and analyze it? Like someone, if I was talking to a friend and they were being objective, how can I be objective to my own feelings so that I can start to problem solve and put things into place that'll help me feel better, or whatever the desired feeling is. And so instead of skipping out on something I know is for my benefit, let me not go home first. Let me not sit down first. Let me make sure I have my clothes with me so I can go from here to there. Because I tell people all the time, all you have to do is show up here. I've taken care of the rest of it. I've done so many thousands of hours of training to teach classes. I got you. All you have to do is show up. Take care of the rest. You're going to get a workout. We're going to laugh. We're going to have some fun. We're going to sweat. We're going to fellowship. I got all that covered. All you have to do is make the decision to just arrive. And if we can look at things like that, all I have to do is make the decision to get there, to show up. The rest of it will fall into place. Whatever that first step is, I just have to make the decision to do it. And that's how I try to navigate everything, because I feel the feelings all day long. But instead of sitting back and saying, I am just sitting here sad, depressed, melancholy because this happened to that person, that happened, I'm like, what can I do to turn that feeling into action? What can I do to turn that feeling into something that can actually make a difference to either myself or someone else?
Yeah. And it's like, I hear a couple things, is like, one is like turning from the victim to creator mentality, right? Like victim, are you at effect, or are you, at cause for something to happen, right? So it's just changing the mindset about what can I do? And then it's also like acknowledging your feelings. And so many times we don't do that. And even, I remember when I first became a single mom, and, I got divorced and became a single mom, my oldest was still a little, he was like, he wasn't even, I don't know, he was a year old or whatever. Right. And, I remember I was talking to a therapist, and, we were talking about my fears. I was a new mom, I had a lot of fears. I was working full time. I worked like an hour and a half from my home. So it was long days. Like I was also going to school 2 nights a week and stuff like that. But one of the exercises she did was very similar to what you're saying. I had made a list of all my fears. Right. And then I looked at like, okay, first of all, is this a real fear?
Yes.
Right. Because some of it is not, there are fears that are actually not real fears, right?
Right.
You realize like, this is just doesn't make sense. Right. Like, and then for the fears that were legit, it was like, okay, well, what is, if he does get sick, who can I call that's closer? It was just making a plan. And that took away it took away the power of, it took away the power that I was giving the fear.
Yes.
And I was taking that back to say like, okay, this is what I'm going to do in order to, if this is the thing that's scaring me, here's the plan so that it's not overtaking things. Right. And then the fear dissipated. Right. So it's kind of like what I'm hearing, what you're saying too. So I kind of missed these. I forgot. So Jeannie was on. She said, hi.
Yes, I remember Jeannie. Hello.
Yeah, Jeannie.
Yes, Women's Movement Collaborative. Yes.
Yeah. And then Victoria is another coach. She jumped on and said hello. Yeah, that's really good advice. And I love that you're just, it's like you are super strong and you're a human being and deal with fears too, right? And it's just kind of breaking it down and looking at like, is this a legitimate fear? And then what can I do? And a lot of times it's just about moving forward, because the inaction, will just keep us paralyzed. But the action actually will give us more clarity too.
Absolutely.
What's something that you've personally have done that has required you to tap into your courage?
Mm. Oh gosh, many things. Certainly going to Israel. I didn't know what to really expect at all. And testing every belt test I ever do through Krav Maga. The first thing I'm like, I'm doing this to myself again. but, but I always remind myself like how amazing it feels once it's done. And you really don't think about it when you're in it. You just do what you have to do. But I'm like, okay, I know that 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7, whatever time is going to get here no matter what. So whether or not I'm active doing something or not, the hour is going to pass, the 2 hours is going to pass, the 3, whatever, the weeks are going to pass. So every time I schedule something that I'm really intimidated by or afraid to, like I'm already anxious about it or whatever, I just remember the fact that there's going to be a time after that. And so do I want to be on the other side regretting that I didn't do it, or do I want to be on the other side of 7:30 feeling like, yes, I'm so glad I showed up, I did it, and I feel better. So I really try to do that every single time. And the most recent was definitely the black belt test, because I've worked with several federations, and I hadn't, with this particular federation, Krav Maga Universal, they're based in Pennsylvania, and I love this group of people. They're amazing. Every federation is really branched from worldwide in some kind of way. So even though I've worked with other federations, a lot of folks know one another and still have the utmost respect for one another. They just have different ways of training and teaching it. But when my instructor and I was like, well, first I was really nervous because it was just me, and during the pandemic, I wasn't training hand to hand with as many people, of course, because we were doing things at distance. Right. So the thought of doing a black belt test and having to grapple and having to spar and having to do all this stuff, I hadn't really been closely in contact with people, was really, really intimidating. I was like, oh my gosh, are my grappling skills going to be okay? And like you said, we train with anybody. You're not just training with somebody your size and your gender. We train with each other no matter what. So your partner might be twice your size. Your partner might be half your size. Your partner might be, muscle built and all the kind of stuff, or they might be teeny tiny, skinny, and limber as all get out. So you just never know what you get, which I love that, because then we learn from different body types and different abilities, and we learn our strengths and weaknesses as they stand up to other people's strengths and weaknesses. Because at the end of the day, we're still human. Our eyes are vulnerable. Our throat are so all these areas are vulnerable no matter who you are or how big you are. So understanding that we all have strengths and things that are gonna be better for us than for other people. It's just, that's just how it is. So you gotta find it. So before the black belt test, I was like, well, what could help me feel better? So I was like, well, my training partner is also an instructor, and he's amazing, and he's ready for black belt. So I was like, can we both come and train? Because then we can practice with each other. So months ahead of time, I asked, and they were like, of course. And they're like, if you're training with them and we've seen you train, we know that it's going to be fine. So they had let me bring my own partner. And when we got there, it was a 2-day examination, actually. So the first day was about 5-6 hours. And we got there.
Is it straight or breaks?
Like the second day, I think we had maybe a 15-minute break.
My gosh. Yeah. Imagine 1 hour class and I'm dying. I'm looking for a water break.
And I'm telling, and again, that's where I started. I mean, that's the amazing part of the progression. That's how I started. And so to go from that to doing a 2-day black belt test is still beyond me. I'm like, I don't know how I did. I think it's cool, but I don't even know how I did. But no, they were just such a great group of people. And the fact that I got to bring someone I was familiar with helped me so much. When we got there were tons of people testing at different levels. So we still got to work with a lot of different people. But again, it's about, okay, what is the fear? What is the concern? Is there a way to overcome that? And how do we do that? And at the end of the day, it's like, I kept thinking to myself, okay, the black belt test is on this date. So we were training outside of teaching, very regularly. I also reached out to instructors around here, my instructors in Raleigh, and they offered extra time to practice things, which was so nice. And everybody in our community is so supportive. They're like, yes, do it. And so then we get to Pennsylvania and we don't really know what to expect. And everybody's so cool. And, they push you. It's grueling, but at the same time, we know we're going to learn a ton. And all I kept thinking was the date after that. I'm like, how do I want to feel that day? And do I want to feel bummed out because I didn't go? Or do I want to feel awesome because I did it? And I just kept reminding myself. And then we also planned for celebrations afterwards. We're like, okay, when we get this done, we're going to do X, Y, Z. We haven't gotten to them yet. So it's still coming. But we're like, we're going to take the community, the coalition, and we're going to do this seminar and that seminar because we just wanted to celebrate. So thinking ahead, thinking to the other side of a big, intimidating thing also helps.
Yeah, the what
I know
for,
there's
the
another side.
bigger
Yeah.
why, right?
Yes.
Like you have to know that, because when you do feel like giving up, you got to pull that like strength and from somewhere, right? That strength, and whether it's from your purpose, whether it's from your commitments, but just you got to dig deeper.
Got to dig deeper and know why you want to overcome this moment. Absolutely. And also knowing that you're not alone. I'm like, other people have done this. The fact that I know other human beings who've gone through black belt, second, third degree, whatever, I'm like, they can do it. And I'm training with them. So then I can do it. Why not? Why
yeah,
not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just try to apply that. But yeah, that definitely caused some anxiety for sure. And I'm traveling. I get more and more nervous traveling as life goes on. But again, I just love different perspectives. I love going to other countries and experiencing other cultures and anything outside of what I'm used to. It just broadens your purview of life. And so I was like, hey, at the end of the day, whether they pass me or not, I'm going out there. I'm going to have a blast. I was the only female in my group. There was like 25 of us, 24. And the first day, and they have pretty good edge about themselves. Personality wise, the Israelis they're cool, but there's an edge, there's an edge to it. So the first day at Wingate, when we were, training, we were all in line, and they were like, okay, who wants to go first doing something? And I always tell myself, if you can go first, go first. Go ahead and get out of the way. Like jump on it, because there's nothing else to compare it to. So you're good. So I'm like, you're good to go. Just own it. Just do it. So I was like, I volunteered to be the first one to teach. And of course, they're like ripping me to shreds and everything like that. But I was so thankful I did it, because I got it done, got out the way. And, I think it says something about you when you're, bold enough to just put yourself out there. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm the first one. I'll probably get the most feedback, the most valuable feedback, and it's going to help me grow. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to grow. So I welcome the critique. I welcome all of that. And I'll never forget that experience.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I try to, if I do feel that way, how can I attack the attack? That's what I ask myself. How can I attack the attack? How can I go right for the jugular and just get through it and own it?
Yeah. I had a coach that always used to say that leaders go first.
Yes.
Right? Like that leaders go first. So if Krav, I'm just kind of saying it like this. If Krav Maga Jaimie was your alter ego, who's Jaimie outside of Krav Maga?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Yeah, it's so funny, when people through different parts of your life, and a group of people see you in this regard, so outside of Krav, I'm silly and I'm happy-go-lucky, and I feel like I'm a teddy bear. Like I love something about everybody. So if I know you, I love you. There's something about you I love for sure right away. And I love to laugh. I love to joke around. I love food. I used to eat everything, even though I eat differently now, but I used to eat. So growing up, my family called me Mikey, because I would eat anything. And it helped me traveling overseas. I was like, yes, give it to me. I love different foods and different spices and different this and different that. So I used to just love to just eat and fellowship and hang out. And I love new activities. I used to be in a roller skating club, and we would roller skate every weekend out in Raleigh. Like I said, I just show up. Somebody invites me. I'm like, okay, I'll try it. So I do love that. I love to dance. I love music. I love live music. I just think the arts and performance are everything. I used to play piano, and I don't play anymore, but I really miss it. I used to sing. So yeah, I just try to be well-rounded, and I try to, enjoy every moment I possibly can.
You're Nala in the background.
Yeah, you hear it right. I don't know what's going on. I'm like probably a dog walking past or something. Nala, you hush up. You're such a good guard dog. Good job.
All right. So our lightning round, and then at the end we'll let people know how to contact you. Okay. So for our lightning round, I'm gonna kind of say a phrase, and then you're gonna kind of fill in the back half.
Okay. Oh, fun.
Okay. So this is just whatever comes to the top of your head. I am a warrior for
women.
My favorite book is
Outliers.
Favorite song?
Oh, that's a hard one. Diamonds and Pearls by Prince.
Oh, good. Favorite self-care practice?
Meditation
Power is,
in us all.
I believe,
We're more powerful than we know.
that's good. I am grateful for
Being here.
I want to
Do more.
I am
Kind.
my superpower is,
Love.
and my message for the world is
Attack the attack. No.
hey, if it happens, you got to know how to protect yourself.
There you go. That's true. That's true. In a good way, and not always in a bad way, but in a good way.
So Jaimie, if people want, and you have virtual classes, I want to make that, I want to kind of let people know that you have virtual classes, and then you have your facility here in Chapel Hill. And if people want to follow you, or, want to reach out to you for personal training, or, find you, where do they go? How do they connect with you?
Thank you so much. Thank you. So our website is the Coalition, NC like North Carolina.com. www.thecoalitionnc.com. We're in Chapel Hill on Franklin Street, in between Eastgate and Whole Foods, that shopping center area, right next to a huge Staples on Franklin Street. And through the website, you can contact me or email info@thecoalitionnc.com. info@thecoalitionnc.com. info@thecoalitionnc.com.
Okay.
People can stop by the facility. I'm here I think we're open throughout the day, but between 4:30 and 7:30, 8 o'clock, somebody's here all the time. So you can just stop by. Saturdays, I'm here all day. So any of those ways. And I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram. I personally don't get on there much. Forgive me. I'm terrible with social media, but I do have friends that help upload stuff for the business. So you can also see us that way.
All right, awesome. And I dropped the link to the coalition there and the email into the chat so people can see that. So you guys, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope that you found a lot of value. Jaimie, thank you for, just being the powerful woman that you are, for being a business owner, for being, for really being a stand for, I think for people tapping into their own power. I really think that that's, part of the gift that you give is showing people, mirroring that for people, and showing them that, the power, it does come from within, and just doing it like, it's such a, it's self-defense, right? So you kind of brought up attack the attacker, right? And that's what it is. But like, your classes are super fun, super engaging, like you're super motivating, you're so kind. It's kind of funny because you think Krav Maga, that is like the super like kind, fun, energetic person teaching it. But this is really, this is a great way for people to not only get physically fit. You guys, I'm turning 44 this month, and you guys are going to see a transformation in me, because I'm going to be the strongest I have ever been. And I am making that declaration right now. You guys are hearing it from me. And I know it's going to happen because I'm committed to it. And I got a great coach and trainer here. So I know that it's going to happen, but it's, whether you're in Chapel Hill or somewhere else, I just want to encourage you, to check Krav Maga out, and just to really think about some of the lessons that came out of this conversation today, about going out of our comfort zone, about being in community, about not letting our fears take over, about, how much our mindset plays into how we live our life. So Jaimie, thank you for all of the wisdom that you have shared with us today. And, we're wishing you continued success in your business. And we're, the boys and I are super proud to be, part of the coalition. We think we're Fight Club over here.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love having y'all too. Y'all make it so fun. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. So thank you. I'm super honored to be a part of your journey. Seriously.
So thank you again. And next Wednesday, I will have our guest An Lee Jordan with us. She is the founder of, she actually is the founder of, oh gosh, I'm all of a sudden losing the name of it, but it is a program developed for first generation college students. I cannot think of the name all of a sudden. And she's also a co-founder of Exit Wisdom, which is all about empowering individuals to really own their career development, especially when you're in a toxic situation. So she will be our guest next week if you want to join in at 1 p.m. the same time, and she'll be our woman warrior. Jaimie, thank you again. And thank you to all of you warriors out there. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes. Yay. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Thank you.